The unexpected inheritance. Alex Chen wiped the sweat from his brow, leaving a streak of grease across his forehead. The relentless hum of machinery filled the air of the cramped workshop aboard the space station Epsilon 9. This far out on the fringes of human space, the sounds of clanking metal and hissing steam were more comforting than the eerie silence of the void outside. At 32, Alex had spent the better part of a decade as the lead mechanic on this floating hub of human activity. He preferred the company of engines and circuitry to most people. Machines were predictable, fixable. People, not so much. A muffled ping from his comm unit broke through the mechanical symphony. Alex frowned. It was well past his scheduled shift, and only emergency calls came through at this hour. He tapped the device on his wrist, and a holographic display flickered to life. The image that materialized was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. A tall, willowy figure with iridescent skin and multifaceted eyes stared back at him. The alien's features were both beautiful and unsettling in their otherworldliness. Alex Chen of Earth. The alien's voice was melodic, with an undertone that made Alex's skin prickle. "That's me," Alex replied, trying to keep the uncertainty out of his voice. "Who's asking?" "I am Zorn, High Counselor of the Galactic Confederation. I bring news of great import." The alien paused, its faceted eyes shimmering. "You have been named in the will of His Majesty, King Thorlax the Benevolent, ruler of the Xenoran Empire." Alex blinked, certain he had misheard. "I'm sorry, what? There must be some mistake. I don't know any alien kings." Zorn's expression remained impassive. "There is no mistake, Alex Chen. King Thorlax was most specific in his final wishes. You have been chosen as the guardian of Princess Zora, third daughter of the royal house of Sonora." The spanner Alex had been holding clattered to the floor. "Guardian of an alien princess. But why me?" "The reasoning of King Thorlax is not for us to question," Zorn replied, a hint of annoyance creeping into his melodic voice. "You are to report to the Galactic Council chambers on Centauri Prime immediately. Transport has been arranged." Before Alex could protest further, a hologram flickered and disappeared. He stood in stunned silence, the rhythmic clanking of machinery suddenly feeling very far away. The journey to Centauri Prime was a blur of hyperspace jumps and alien customs procedures. Alex found himself ushered through gleaming spaceports and onto sleek ships that made the clunky human vessels look like ancient relics. As he stepped into the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, Alex felt woefully out of place. His worn coveralls and grease-stained hands stood in stark contrast to the ornate robes and bejeweled appendages of the gathered alien dignitaries. Zorn stood at the center of the chamber, flanked by a diverse array of alien species. Some were vaguely humanoid, while others defied easy description. All eyes turned to Alex as he entered, and a wave of murmurs rippled through the assembly. "Alex Chen of Earth," Zorn announced, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "You stand before the Galactic Council to accept your role as guardian to Princess Zora of Sonora." A slender figure stepped forward from the shadows behind Zorn. Alex's breath caught in his throat. Princess Zora was nothing like he had imagined. Where he had expected beauty to match the other alien's ethereal appearance, he found something else. Zora's skin was a mottled gray, lacking the iridescence of her peers. Her eyes, instead of faceted jewels, were sunken and dull. A series of ridges and protrusions marred her face and arms, giving her an almost reptilian appearance. The chamber erupted in poorly concealed laughter and derisive comments. "Surely, this is a jest. The human is to be guardian of that?" King Thorlax's final insult to his least favored child. Alex felt a surge of anger at the cruel remarks. Princess Zora stood silently, her posture rigid, but he could see the pain in her eyes. Zorn raised a hand, silencing the chamber. "The will of King Thorlax is clear. Alex Chen, do you accept your role as guardian to Princess Zora?" Alex looked at the alien princess, seeing past her unusual appearance to the vulnerability beneath. In that moment, he made a decision that would change the course of his life, and though he didn't know it yet, the fate of galaxies. "I accept," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. The chamber exploded into chaos. Alien diplomats shouted protests and demands for explanation. Through it all, Alex kept his eyes locked with Zora's. For the briefest moment, he saw a flicker of something in her gaze. Hope, perhaps, or the faintest glimmer of trust. Zorn struggled to regain control of the proceedings. The human has accepted. It is done. As the uproar continued, a small, reptilian alien scuttled up to Alex. "I am Crix, royal attendant to Princess Zora," it chittered. "Come, we must prepare for your departure to Xenora." Alex followed Crix out of the chamber, acutely aware of the hostile glares following their exit. Princess Zora walked silently beside him, her movements graceful despite her unusual appearance. Once they were clear of the council chambers, Crix turned to Alex, its beady eyes blinking rapidly. "You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, human. Why don't you enlighten me?" Alex replied, his mind still reeling from the events of the past few hours. Crix glanced nervously at Zora before speaking. "Princess Zora is unique among her kind. Her appearance is considered a great shame to the royal family. Many believe her to be cursed." Alex frowned. "That's ridiculous. She's just different." "Different is dangerous in the Xenoran Empire," Crix whispered. "King Sorlax protected her, but now—" The small alien trailed off, looking worried. "Now she has me," Alex said with more confidence than he felt. He turned to Zora, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. "Princess, I may not understand all of this, but I promise I'll do my best to protect you." Zora's eyes widened slightly, and she spoke for the first time, her voice soft but clear. "You are kind, Alex Chen. But you do not yet comprehend the forces aligned against us." As if to emphasize her point, a commotion erupted behind them. A group of alien diplomats burst from the council chambers, led by a tall, regal figure with shimmering golden skin. "This is an outrage," the golden alien bellowed. "I, Prince Sorax, will not stand for this insult to the Xenoran throne." Alex instinctively stepped in front of Zora, shielding her from the advancing group. "Back off," he growled, surprising himself with the force in his voice. The king's will was clear. Prince Zorax sneered, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. "A human mechanic, guardian to a princess. The very idea is laughable. Stand aside, little creature. I'll be taking my sister back to Xenora, where she belongs, hidden away from sight." "Not going to happen," Alex replied, standing his ground. The tension in the corridor was palpable. Alex was acutely aware that he was unarmed and vastly outmatched against these alien beings, but something in him refused to back down. Just as Prince Zorax looked ready to resort to force, a new voice cut through the standoff. "That is quite enough." The crowd parted to reveal another alien, this one ancient-looking, with skin like wrinkled parchment. "I am San, keeper of the royal archives. The will of King Sorlax is absolute and binding. The human has accepted his role as guardian. Any who defy this decree defy the very foundations of our laws." Prince Zorax sputtered in rage but seemed unable to formulate a response. The other aliens muttered among themselves, clearly unwilling to challenge the authority of the archive keeper. San fixed Alex with a penetrating stare. "You have taken on a great responsibility, Alex Chen of Earth. The road ahead will be fraught with danger and intrigue. Are you prepared for what is to come?" Alex glanced at Zora, seeing the mix of fear and hope in her unusual eyes. He thought of his quiet life as a mechanic, of the predictability and safety he was leaving behind. Then he straightened his shoulders and met San's gaze. "I'm ready," he said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. San nodded solemnly. "Then let it be known throughout the galaxies." Alex Chen of Earth is hereby recognized as the legal guardian of Princess Zora of Tenora. May the stars have mercy on you both." As the crowd of aliens dispersed, some grumbling in disappointment, and others watching with keen interest, Alex felt the weight of his decision settling onto his shoulders. He looked at Zora, who regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Well, Princess," he said, attempting a smile, "I guess we're in this together now. What's our next move?" Zora's lips curved in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "We survive, Alex Chen. We survive and prove them all wrong." As they turned to leave, flanked by the nervous Cricks, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped into something far bigger than he could imagine. The quiet life of a space station mechanic seemed like a distant memory now. Ahead lay a journey into the heart of an alien empire, political intrigue, and dangers he could scarcely comprehend. But looking at Zora, seeing the strength behind her unusual features, Alex knew he had made the right choice. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The human mechanic and the alien princess, united by an unexpected inheritance and the promise of an adventure beyond imagination. Arrival on Sonora. The journey to Sonora was a stark reminder to Alex of just how far he'd ventured from his comfort zone. The sleek alien vessel cut through the fabric of space-time with an ease that made his engineer's mind reel. Stars streaked past the viewing portal in dizzying arrays of color, a far cry from the utilitarian confines of Epsilon 9. Princess Zora spent most of the journey in silence, her alien features impassive. Alex found himself stealing glances at her, trying to reconcile the being before him with the concept of royalty he'd grown up with on Earth. "You have questions," Zora said suddenly, her multifaceted eyes fixing on Alex with unsettling intensity. Alex nodded, grateful for the break in silence. "A few million, give or take. But let's start with the basics. Why me? Why did your father choose a human mechanic as your guardian?" Zara was quiet for a long moment, her mottled skin shifting in patterns that Alex was beginning to recognize as emotional tells. "My father was a visionary. He believed that the future of our galaxy lay in cooperation between species, not isolation. You, Alex Chen, represent that future." "Me?" Alex couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. "I'm just a guy who's good with machines." "Perhaps," Zora replied, a hint of amusement in her tone. "Or perhaps you are more. My father saw something in you, something that even I do not yet understand." Before Alex could press further, a chime echoed through the ship. Crix, the nervous attendant, scurried into the chamber. "We're approaching Sonora, Your Highness. You should prepare for arrival." The first glimpse of Sonora took Alex's breath away. The planet was a swirling mass of purple and gold, with rings of crystalline debris that sparkled like diamond dust. As they descended through the atmosphere, Alex saw sprawling cities that seemed to be grown, rather than built, organic structures that pulsed with inner light. Their ship touched down on a landing pad that extended from a towering spire, its surface rippling like liquid metal. A delegation was waiting for them, a mix of beings that showcased the diversity of the Sonoran Empire. At the forefront stood Prince Zorax, his golden skin gleaming in the alien sunlight. His eyes narrowed as Alex and Zora emerged from the ship. "Welcome home, dear sister," Zorax said, his voice dripping with false warmth. "And, Alex Chen, how kind of you to escort our princess back to where she belongs." Alex felt Zora tense beside him. "I'm not just an escort, Your Highness. I'm here as Zora's guardian, by order of King Sorlax." A ripple of murmurs went through the assembled crowd. Zorax's face twisted in a sneer. "Yes, our late father's amusing final decree. Well, you've completed your task. You may return to your quaint little space station now." "I don't think so," Alex replied, standing his ground. The king's will was clear. "I'm here to stay." Zorax's eyes flashed dangerously. "You dare?" "Enough, Zorax." A new voice cut through the tension. An elderly Xeneran stepped forward, his skin a pale, translucent blue. I am Vex, royal advisor. The human speaks truth. By law, he is Princess Zora's guardian until she comes of age or ascends to the throne. Zorax looked ready to argue, but a sharp look from Vex silenced him. The advisor turned to Alex and Zora. Come, we have much to discuss, and this is not the place. As they followed Vex into the towering spire, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of hostile eyes burning into his back. The interior of the building was as organic and alive as the outside, with corridors that seemed to breathe and pulse around them. Vex led them to a chamber that Alex supposed was meant to be an office, though it looked more like the inside of a giant flower. The advisor settled himself behind a desk that grew seamlessly from the floor. You've stirred up quite the galactic hornet's nest, Alex Chen, Vex said, his tone neutral but his eyes sharp. There are many who question King Sorlax's decision. With all due respect, Alex replied, I don't care what they think. I made a promise to protect Zora, and I intend to keep it. Vex's expression softened slightly. Noble intentions, but this is not your world, human. The politics of the Xeneran Empire are complex and deadly. One wrong move could mean not just your life, but Princess Zora's as well. Zora, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. What my father did was unprecedented, Vex. But he must have had his reasons. Indeed, Vex nodded. But those reasons died with him, I'm afraid. And now we are left with this situation. Alex frowned. This situation has a name and a title. Princess Zora is the rightful heir to the throne, isn't she? A heavy silence fell over the room. Vex and Zora exchanged a look that spoke volumes. It's complicated, Zora finally said. My condition makes traditional succession problematic. Your condition? Alex asked, confused. You mean your appearance? That's ridiculous. Who cares what you look like? Many care, Alex Chen, Vex said gravely. In Xeneran culture, physical perfection is seen as a sign of divine favor. Princess Zora's unique appearance has long been viewed as a curse, a sign that she is unfit to rule. Alex felt a surge of anger. That's the most backward thing I've ever heard. Zora is brilliant, kind, and strong. She'd make a great ruler. Zora looked at Alex, surprise, and something like gratitude in her eyes. You barely know me, Alex. I know enough, Alex replied firmly. And I know injustice when I see it. Vex leaned back, a thoughtful expression on his alien face. Perhaps this is what Sorlax foresaw, a perspective unclouded by our preconceptions and traditions. A chime sounded, and a holographic display sprang to life above Vex's desk. The advisor's expression darkened as he read the glowing alien script. It seems the Galactic Council is convening an emergency session, Vex said. They're challenging King Sorlax's will and your guardianship, Alex. Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. Can they do that? They can certainly try, Vex replied. And they have powerful allies. Prince Zorax has been lobbying for years to have Zora declared unfit for succession. Zora's shoulders slumped. Perhaps it would be better if I just stepped aside. Accepted my fate. No. Alex's voice was firm, surprising even himself with its intensity. No, we're not giving up. Your father chose me for a reason, and I'm not going to let him down. I'm not going to let you down, Zora. He turned to Vex. What do we need to do? The old advisor studied Alex for a long moment, then nodded as if coming to a decision. The rite of ascension. It's an ancient Xeneran tradition, a series of trials to prove one's worthiness to rule. If Princess Zora can complete the rite, even the Galactic Council couldn't deny her claim to the throne. Then that's what we'll do, Alex said, his mind already racing with possibilities. When can we start? It's not that simple, Vex cautioned. The rite is dangerous, designed to test not just the body, but the mind and spirit as well. Many have died in the attempt. Alex looked at Zara, saw the mix of fear and hope in her alien eyes. He remembered the cruel laughter in the Galactic Council chambers, the dismissive sneers of Prince Sorax. Something hardened inside him, a determination he didn't know he possessed. "We'll do it," he said. "Together. I may not know much about alien politics or mystical rites, but I know how to face challenges, how to solve problems, how to fix things that everyone else thinks are broken." Zara straightened, drawing herself up to her full height. For a moment, Alex saw not the outcast princess, but the ruler she could become. "Yes," she said, her voice strong. "We will face the rite of ascension, and we will show the galaxy that true worth comes from within, not from outward appearance." Vex nodded, a glimmer of respect in his ancient eyes. "Very well. I will make the arrangements. But be warned, both of you. From this moment on, you are in danger. There are those who will stop at nothing to prevent Princess Zora from completing the rite." As if to emphasize his point, a distant explosion rocked the building. Alarms began to blare, and the organic walls pulsed with urgent patterns of light. "It seems," Vex said grimly, "that your trials begin sooner than expected." Alex's hand found Zora's, their alien anatomies intertwining in a gesture of solidarity. "Bring it on," he said, surprising himself with the confidence in his voice. "We're ready." As they rushed from the chamber, following Vex through corridors that writhed with panic, Alex's mind was already working, assessing, planning. He was a long way from the comfortable routine of Epsilon 9, but in that moment, he knew he was exactly where he needed to be. The human mechanic and the alien princess united against a galaxy that sought to tear them apart. Their journey was just beginning, and the greatest challenges lay ahead. But together, they just might rewrite the stars. Uncovering the plot. The explosion that rocked the royal spire was just the beginning. In the days that followed, Alex and Zara found themselves thrust into a whirlwind of political intrigue and barely concealed hostility. The once grand halls of the Ceneran Palace had become a battleground of whispers and sidelong glances. Alex stood at the window of their assigned quarters, watching the swirling purple skies of Sonora. The alien world still took his breath away, but he couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked behind every organic curve of the palace walls. "You're brooding again," Zara's voice came from behind him. Despite the stress of recent events, Alex couldn't help but smile. The princess had a way of cutting through his darkest moods. "Just thinking," he replied, turning to face her. "We've been here a week, and we're no closer to figuring out who's behind these attacks. The rite of ascension is in 3 days, and I can't shake the feeling we're running out of time." Zara nodded, her mottled skin shifting in patterns that Alex was learning to read as concern. "The palace has always been a nest of vikers, but this is different. Someone is desperate to stop us." A chime at the door interrupted their conversation. Crix, the nervous attendant, scurried in, his beady eyes darting around the room. "Apologies for the intrusion, Your Highness, but there's been another incident. The sacred texts for the rite of ascension. They've been stolen." Alex felt his heart sink. Without those texts, Zora couldn't prepare for the trials ahead. It was sabotage, plain and simple. "This can't be a coincidence," he muttered. "First the explosion, then the poisoned food in the dining hall, and now this. We need to do something, Zora. We can't just sit here and wait for the next attack." Zora's multifaceted eyes narrowed in determination. "You're right. It's time we took matters into our own hands." She turned to Crix. "Gather the staff you trust implicitly. We're going to conduct our own investigation." As Crix scurried off, Alex raised an eyebrow. "I like this proactive side of you, Princess. What's the plan?" "We're going to the one place in the palace no one would think to look," Zara replied, a sly smile playing across her alien features. "The servants' quarters." The lower levels of the palace were a stark contrast to the opulent chambers above. Here, the organic architecture was more utilitarian. The pulsing bioluminescence muted. Alex and Zara, disguised in the flowing robes of palace attendants, moved quietly through the winding corridors. My father always said that to truly understand the workings of power, one must listen to those who serve it, Zara whispered. The staff see everything, hear everything. If there's a conspiracy, they'll know. They entered a large communal area where off-duty staff gathered. Conversations hushed as they entered, curious eyes taking in the newcomers. Alex felt distinctly out of place, but Zara moved with the confidence of someone used to navigating complex social situations. An elderly Xenoran approached them, her skin a pale, weathered green. "You're new," she said, her tone neutral but her eyes sharp. "What brings you to our humble gathering?" Zara stepped forward, her voice low. "We seek the truth, honored elder. About the attacks, about the stolen texts, about who would seek to harm the princess." The old Xenoran's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed in understanding. "Ah, I see. Well, you've come to the right place. We may be servants, but we have eyes and ears everywhere." She gestured for them to sit. "I am Lix, head of the kitchen staff. And you are not what you seem." Alex tensed, ready for trouble, but Zora placed a calming hand on his arm. "No, we are not," she admitted, "but we need your help." Lix studied them for a long moment, then nodded. "The princess who would be queen and her human guardian. Yes, we've heard much about you. Come, let us talk somewhere more private." She led them to a small alcove, shielded from prying eyes by a curtain of bioluminescent vines. Once seated, Lix's demeanor changed, becoming more serious. "There have been whispers," she began, "of a faction within the court that seeks to prevent Princess Zora's ascension at any cost. They believe her unique appearance would weaken the Xenoran Empire in the eyes of the galaxy." Alex felt a surge of anger. "That's ridiculous. Zora's brilliance and compassion are what matter, not how she looks." Lix smiled sadly. "A refreshingly enlightened view, young human. But centuries of tradition are not easily overcome. This faction fears change, fears the unknown. And you, Alex Chen, represent the greatest unknown of all. Do you know who leads this faction?" Zara asked, leaning forward intently. Lix shook her head. "Names are rarely spoken, but there are rumors of a shadow council, high-ranking nobles, military leaders, perhaps even members of the Galactic Council itself." Alex's mind raced, connecting dots he hadn't seen before. The attacks, the sabotage, it's all been too well coordinated for a random group of dissidents. This goes deep. Zara nodded, her expression grim. "But why steal the sacred texts? Without them, I can't prepare for the rite of ascension. It's almost as if they want me to fail spectacularly, or not participate at all." Alex mused. "What happens if you can't complete the rite?" Lix's eyes widened. "By ancient law, if the heir fails to complete the rite of ascension, they forfeit their claim to the throne. The crown would pass to the next in line." "Zorax," Zara whispered, realization dawning. "My brother has always craved power. Could he be behind this?" Before Lix could respond, a commotion erupted outside the alcove. Shouts and the sound of running feet echoed through the servants' quarters. "They're here," a voice cried. "The princess and the human have been spotted in the lower levels." Alex cursed under his breath. "So much for our stealth mission. We need to get out of here, Zora." Lix quickly ushered them towards a hidden panel in the wall. "This passage will lead you to the upper levels. Hurry. And princess," she added, pressing a small, pulsing orb into Zora's hand. "This contains a copy of the sacred texts. Not complete, but it may help. Now go." As they rushed through the secret passage, Alex's mind whirled with the implications of what they'd learned. A conspiracy reaching to the highest levels of power, all aimed at preventing Zora from taking her rightful place on the throne. "We need to be careful," he said as they emerged into an empty corridor near their quarters. If Zorax is behind this, we can't trust anyone in the palace." Zara nodded, her alien features set in determination. "Then we trust each other, Alex. We have 3 days until the rite of ascension. 3 days to prepare, to uncover the truth, and to show the galaxy that I am worthy of my father's legacy." As they slipped back into their quarters, narrowly avoiding the search parties scouring the palace, Alex felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were in over their heads, facing enemies they couldn't see and dangers they couldn't predict. But looking at Zara, seeing the strength and resolve in her alien eyes, he knew they had a fighting chance. The human mechanic and the alien princess, united against a galaxy of prejudice and political machinations. The odds were stacked against them, but Alex had never been one to back down from a challenge. As he began to study the partial sacred texts with Zora, he made a silent vow. They would overcome this conspiracy. They would face the rite of ascension. And they would show the Xeneran Empire, the Galactic Council, and anyone else who doubted them that true strength comes from within, regardless of appearance or species. The clock was ticking. The enemies were closing in, but Alex Chen and Princess Zora were just getting started. The greatest challenges lay ahead, but so did the potential for a future that could change the face of the galaxy forever. Human ingenuity vs. alien technology. The next 2 days passed in a blur of frantic preparation and narrowly avoided dangers. Alex and Zara pored over the partial sacred texts, trying to glean any information that might help them in the upcoming rite of ascension. But with each passing hour, the weight of what they were up against grew heavier. Alex stood in the center of their quarters, surrounded by holographic displays of alien text and schematics. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, but his mind was racing with possibilities. "Okay, let's go over this again," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The rite of ascension has 3 main trials: the trial of mind, the trial of body, and the trial of spirit. But without the complete texts, we're flying blind on the specifics. Zara nodded, her alien features creased with worry. "And we can be certain that Zorax and his conspirators will have sabotaged the trials in some way. We need to be prepared for anything." Alex's eyes lit up with an idea. "That's it. We can't predict what they'll throw at us, but we can prepare for the unexpected. It's time to fight alien tech with good old-fashioned human ingenuity." Over the next several hours, Alex threw himself into a frenzy of creation. He dismantled communication devices, repurposed bits of alien technology, and even cannibalized parts from his own Earth-made tools. Zara watched in fascination as the human worked, his hands moving with a surety and purpose that seemed almost magical. "What exactly are you making?" she asked as Alex soldered 2 impossibly thin wires together. Alex grinned, holding up a small, innocuous-looking device. "This, Your Highness, is our secret weapon. I call it the Xenotech Disruptor. It should be able to interfere with most forms of alien technology we might encounter during the trials." Zara's multifaceted eyes widened in surprise. "You created this from spare parts?" "Alex, this is incredible. But how did you know how to interface with Xeneran tech?" "I didn't," Alex admitted with a shrug. "But machines are machines, no matter what planet they come from. It's all about understanding the underlying principles and thinking outside the box." As night fell on the eve of the rite of ascension, Alex and Zara made final preparations. They had done all they could with the limited information and resources available to them. Now, it was time to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "Remember," Alex said as they prepared to leave their quarters, "no matter what happens in there, we're in this together. Trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to think creatively. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones they least expect." Zara nodded, a determined set to her alien features. "Together," she agreed, reaching out to clasp Alex's hand in a gesture that bridged the gap between their species. As they stepped out into the corridor, they were met by a delegation led by Vex, the royal advisor. His ancient face was grave as he addressed them. "Princess Zora, Alex Chen, it is time. The rite of ascension awaits. May the wisdom of your ancestors guide you. They were led through winding corridors that pulsed with an eerie bioluminescence. Alex could feel the tension in the air, the weight of centuries of tradition bearing down on them. Finally, they arrived at a massive set of doors that seemed to be grown from living crystal. Beyond these doors lie the trials. Vex intoned solemnly. Princess Zora must face them alone. Alex Chen, you will observe from the Chamber of Witnesses, as is tradition. Alex felt a surge of protest rising in his throat, but Zara squeezed his hand reassuringly. It's okay, Alex. This is my challenge to face, but I'll carry your ingenuity and your courage with me. With a final nod to each other, they parted ways. Alex was led to a separate chamber where other witnesses, including Prince Zorax, were already gathered. The prince's golden skin seemed to glow with barely contained triumph, and Alex felt his hackles rise. A massive holographic display dominated the center of the chamber, showing Zara as she entered the first trial. Alex's heart raced as he watched, his hand clutching the spare xenotech disruptor he had managed to smuggle in. The trial of mind began with a series of complex puzzles and riddles, each more challenging than the last. Alex watched with pride as Zara navigated them with grace and intelligence. But as she approached the final challenge, something changed. The holographic interface began to glitch and distort. What's happening? Alex demanded, but the other witnesses merely looked on impassively. On the display, Zara stumbled, clearly disoriented by the malfunctioning technology. Alex's mind raced, putting the pieces together. This was sabotage, designed to make Zara fail at the final hurdle. Without thinking, Alex activated the xenotech disruptor. The device hummed to life, sending out invisible waves that interfered with the sabotaged systems. On the display, the glitches subsided, and Zara regained her footing, completing the trial of mind with moments to spare. Prince Zorax whirled on Alex, his eyes blazing with fury. "What did you do, human?" he hissed. Alex met his gaze steadily. "I evened the playing field, Your Highness. Isn't that what you want?" A fair test of Zara's abilities. Before Zorax could respond, the chamber's attention was drawn back to the display as Zara entered the trial of body. This challenge was more physical, testing strength, agility, and endurance. Again, Alex watched with bated breath as Zara navigated obstacles and faced down holographic opponents. But halfway through the trial, disaster struck. A massive robotic guardian, clearly not part of the original test, lumbered into view. Its eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence as it advanced on Zara. "This isn't part of the trial," Alex shouted, but his protests fell on deaf ears. Zara fought bravely, using her alien agility to dodge the Guardian's attacks. But it was clear she was outmatched by the machine's raw power. Alex's mind raced, searching for a solution. Then he saw it, a pattern in the Guardian's movements, a rhythm to its attacks. "Zara," he shouted, not caring about protocol or tradition. "It's just a machine. Look for the pattern." Whether she heard him or not, Zara seemed to change her strategy. She began to move in sync with the Guardian, anticipating its attacks. Then, in a move that left the witnesses gasping, she led the machine into a trap of its own making, causing it to short-circuit and collapse. As Zara moved on to the final trial, the trial of spirit, Alex could feel the tension in the chamber reaching a breaking point. Zorax was livid, his golden skin practically pulsing with rage. But Alex's focus was entirely on Zara, as she faced her greatest challenge yet. The trial of spirit was unlike anything they had prepared for. Zara stood alone in a void, surrounded by shifting images and echoing voices. Alex realized with a start that she was facing her own fears and doubts, given form by ancient Xenoran technology. He watched as Zara struggled, her confidence wavering in the face of her deepest insecurities. The chamber of witnesses was silent, all eyes fixed on the display. This was the moment that would determine everything. Then, Almost imperceptibly, Zara straightened, her unique features set in determination as she faced down the specters of her past. Alex could almost hear her voice, repeating the words they had shared over the past days. True strength comes from within. With a surge of will that left Alex breathless, Zara pushed through the final trial. The void around her shattered like glass, and she emerged, victorious and transformed. The chamber of witnesses erupted in chaos. Shouts of disbelief mingled with cries of triumph. Zorak stormed out, his plans in tatters. But Alex had eyes only for Zara as she was led back into the chamber, her alien features radiant with accomplishment. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and in that moment, Alex knew that everything had changed. They had faced impossible odds, outsmarted ancient technology, and overcome deep-rooted prejudices. The human mechanic and the alien princess had done the impossible, and as the first cries of "Long live Queen Zora" began to echo through the chamber, Alex realized that their greatest adventure was only just beginning. Triumph and acceptance. The days following Zora's triumph in the rite of ascension were a whirlwind of activity. The once quiet halls of the Xeneran Palace now buzzed with excitement and anticipation. News of Zora's success had spread rapidly across the Empire and beyond, sending shockwaves through the galactic community. Alex found himself at the center of it all, a human adrift in a sea of alien politics and traditions. But through it all, he remained steadfastly by Zora's side, a constant reminder of the unlikely partnership that had changed everything. On the morning of Zora's coronation, Alex stood before a mirror in his quarters, adjusting the formal Xeneran robes he'd been given for the occasion. The garment shifted and pulsed with bioluminescence, responding to his movements in a way that still fascinated him. A chime at the door announced the arrival of Vex, the royal advisor. The ancient Xeneran's eyes crinkled with what Alex had come to recognize as a smile. "It is time." "Alex Chen," Vex said, his tone warm. "The soon-to-be queen awaits." As they walked through the palace corridors, Alex couldn't help but marvel at the change in atmosphere. Where once there had been whispers and sidelong glances, now there were looks of respect and even admiration. "I must admit," Vex said as they walked, "I had my doubts about you, Alex Chen. About both of you. But you have proven that sometimes the most unexpected combinations yield the most extraordinary results." Alex nodded, feeling a swell of pride. "Zara did all the hard work. I just gave her a push in the right direction." Vex's expression turned serious. "Do not underestimate your role in this, young human. Your presence, your unique perspective, has catalyzed changes that will reshape our empire for generations to come." They arrived at the entrance to the Grand Hall, where the coronation would take place. The massive doors were already open, revealing a sea of alien dignitaries from across the galaxy. At the far end, standing before an ornate throne that seemed to grow from the living architecture of the palace, was Zora. Alex's breath caught in his throat. Zora had always been unique, her appearance setting her apart from the ethereal beauty of her people. But today, she was radiant. Her mottled skin shimmered with an inner light, and her multifaceted eyes gleamed with confidence and purpose. As Alex made his way through the crowd, he could hear the murmurs of the assembled aliens. But where once there had been derision and mockery, now there was awe and respect. The human who defied a galaxy. "Did you hear how he outsmarted the saboteurs? They say the princess, no, the queen, trusts him above all others." Alex tuned out the whispers, his focus entirely on Zara as he approached the throne. She smiled as he drew near, a gesture that transcended the differences between their species. "Ready for this?" Alex asked quietly as he took his place beside her. Zara's answer was interrupted by the arrival of a delegation from the Galactic Council. At their head was a familiar face, Zorn, the counselor who had first summoned Alex to this grand adventure. "Queen Zora," Zorn intoned, his melodic voice carrying across the hall. "The Galactic Council extends its congratulations on your ascension to the throne of Tenora. Your triumph in the rite of ascension was unprecedented. Alex didn't miss the slight hesitation in Zorn's voice. He knew that many in the council had supported Zorax's bid for the throne. Their congratulations now were as much about saving face as genuine acceptance. Zara, however, handled the moment with grace. Thank you, Counselor Zorn. Zenora looks forward to continuing our long and prosperous relationship with the Galactic Council. With some changes, of course. A ripple of surprise went through the crowd. Zorn's eyes narrowed slightly. Changes, Your Majesty. Zara's voice was firm as she continued. Yes, Zenora will be proposing a series of reforms to the Council. Reforms aimed at fostering greater cooperation and understanding between all species of our galaxy, starting with the full inclusion and recognition of humanity. The hall erupted in a cacophony of voices. Alex felt a surge of pride and affection for Zora. This was why she would make a great queen. She saw beyond the boundaries of tradition and prejudice. As the noise died down, Zara turned to Alex. None of this would have been possible without you, Alex Chen. You showed all of us, that true strength and wisdom can come from the most unexpected places. Will you stay? Help me build this new future. Alex felt the weight of the moment, of the thousands of alien eyes upon him. He thought of his quiet life as a mechanic on Epsilon 9, of the comfort and predictability he'd left behind. Then he looked at Zora, at the promise of the future she represented, and knew there was only one answer. I'm with you all the way, Your Majesty, he said with a grin. Someone's got to keep your alien technology running smoothly, after all. Laughter rippled through the hall, breaking the last of the tension. As the coronation ceremony began, Alex watched with a sense of wonder and accomplishment. They had done it. Against all odds, they had changed the course of an empire, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The human mechanic and the alien queen, united in their vision of a more inclusive and understanding universe. It wasn't going to be easy. Alex could already see the challenges looming on the horizon. Political opposition, ingrained prejudices, the vastness of space itself. But looking at Zara, seeing the determination and hope in her alien eyes, he knew they would face it all together. As the crown was placed on Zara's head and cheers echoed through the grand hall, Alex felt a sense of possibilities unfurling before him. This was more than just the coronation of a queen. It was the dawn of a new era, one where the boundaries between species blurred, where ingenuity and compassion trumped tradition and prejudice. Queen Zara of Senora and Alex Chen of Earth, an unlikely pair, thrust together by fate and the whim of a visionary king. They had overcome sabotage, political machinations, and deep-rooted biases. They had proven that appearances could be deceiving, that strength could be found in the most unexpected places. As the ceremony concluded, and Zara turned to address her people and the watching galaxy, for the first time as queen, Alex knew that their greatest adventures were still to come. The stars stretched out before them, full of challenges and opportunities, and they would face them all, together. The human who had once been content-fixing machines on a distant space station now stood at the forefront of galactic politics, ready to help shape the future of entire civilizations. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and utterly unexpected. But then again, Alex thought with a smile, the best adventures always were. Long live Queen Zara, long live the new era of galactic cooperation, and long live the spirit of human ingenuity that had helped make it all possible. The end was just the beginning.